cabinet ministers and besieged the home of Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok and placed him under house arrest early this morning. The Sudanese network cited unidentified sources and no independent confirmation was immediately available. The military takeover comes a month after the Sudanese authorities thwarted an attempted coup late September 2021. This is news that just reaching our newsroom that a military coup appears to be underway in Khartoum. According to Sudanese Al Hadath TV, military forces have arrested several cabinet ministers and besieged the home of the Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok and placed him under house arrest early on Monday. The Sudanese network cited unidentified sources and no independent confirmation was immediately unavailable. The military takeover comes a month after the Sudanese authorities thwarted an attempted coup in late September 2021. Now, we are going to be giving you more details on this as we're going to give you more details on this as it transpires, but as of now, we do not have any more information on the political situation in South Sudan. Now, I'd just like to briefly get the views of our guests here in studio. We have Alex Koskei Mgwen MP, Fred Okango, Secretary General, Third Way Alliance. We're still expecting Elisha Odhiambo, again Member of Parliament, to join us. We were talking about the Deputy President's foray into central Kenya. We'll get back to that, but I'd like you to briefly touch on the situation in Sudan. There has been a lot of unrest in Sudan, and clearly it's not getting any better. I'll start with you, Mr. Honorable Koskei.
Well, if that has happened, then it's of course unfortunate for the people of Sudan. We had hoped that the days of military takeovers of governments had actually come to an end in Africa. But if this is the case, then it's unfortunate, and we hope that it can be resolved soon and that there can be democratic elections at some point after this.
All right. Or Mr. Okango, what do you make of the situation that's unfolding?
As my friend Alexa said, it's very unfortunate because every country would want peace for sustainable development. The people of Sudan want peace, and stability is key in terms of their development. So when you see some of these things happen, and as a country, I'm sure we do have some relations with, with all African countries and all countries in the world. So we sympathize with them, but we hope that the best should come so that we don't see escalating violence, we don't see escalating wars where people are dying. That one, it will be unfortunate, but I think in their own way, they have a way of resolving. And maybe the African Union, the international community should look into ways of trying to restore peace and human dignity in Sudan, should that escalate.
And stability in that part of the region. Now, I'd like us to circle back to the situation that we were having here on press review. We were talking about the Deputy President's foray, and I'd asked you earlier on, Honorable Koskei, if you think the Deputy President will be turned into a pace setter, or is he going to maintain the pace that he started with, that he says was inspired by advice from the President?
Thank you, Trix. You see, this election just coming is going to be about the economy. Previous elections, transition elections like this, in 2002, I think the transition election was really about creating a democratic transition from one administration to another peacefully. That happened successfully. 2013, it was about the ICC and also the new constitution, which was being implemented at the time for the first time. As we approach 2022, the key issue is the economy. And on that point, the Deputy President had actually come out very clearly with very clear policies on how to tackle this issue. And it's something that cuts across all regions, across all demographics, and it is a movement and an idea that needs to be done. Now, on that point, the Deputy President is ahead. If you want to call him a pace setter, fine, but he has set the pace. Now, we are waiting for other people to come out clearly and say if they have any solution or any answer to this. They have been very late in the day coming into the game to talk about the economy. As you remember, previously they were talking about constitutional changes. They still did not understand that this election is not going to be about the constitution. This election is going to be about the economy. Now they are slowly playing catch-up, trying to come up with ideas. We welcome that because it is good for Kenyans to have a debate about the economy. But we have to recognize that I think the only person who has actually clearly identified the problem and has a solution for this is the Deputy President, and is those of us who are in the Hustler Nation who want to actually see a change in the country as we move forward from 2020 in 2022.
Absolutely. Honorable Koske, speaking of situations, even with reference to what's happening in Sudan, previous protests in that country was sparked by economic hardships. And it seems like while he might have set the pace, the Deputy President, he also seems to have set the tone for the campaigns, because now everyone is speaking about the economy. The only other person who was touching on the economy was ANC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi. Do you think this is something that's going to resonate with the people of Central Kenya or even the country at large enough to be the reason that he gets the votes that he needs?
Yes, as I said, it is not just about a particular region or particular area. The issue of the economy cuts across all regions, across all demographics. And I believe the people of Central Kenya, like other people all over the country, want to have a government that will actually make a difference in their day-to-day living, try and lower their living, the cost of living, improve their livelihoods, and make a difference in their everyday lives. Now that is going to come to the person who will best address the issue of the economy, bring down the debt, try and improve the issues of the day-to-day, and the person who has that policy and the person who has always been talking about that from a very long time ago to date is the Deputy President, and he's the only person who I believe is sincere about this. I believe the other candidates who are out there, as much as we welcome that they want to talk about the economy, I believe many of them are simply doing so to copy what the Deputy President is saying, because most of the things that they have been saying of late has simply been now what the Deputy President has been saying for a very long time.
Now, Mr. Okango, this brings me to information that I got that you are behind a new movement, the Strugglers movement.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell us about the Struggler movement and how different is it from the Hustler movement?
Tricks. Koske is not honest. He says that it's only the Deputy President who has been sincere about strengthening the economy of this country. That is wrong. And I want Kenyans this morning to know the difference between the Strugglers movement and what they call Hustlers movement. And any operational definition would give it. And if you look at the definitions, the hustler and the strugglers, they are different. And you know what, Tricks? For us, we believe, as the Strugglers movement, that we have struggled for so long. The struggle for strengthening devolution has been for so long. The struggle for inclusion of young people and women into government has been for so long. The struggle to fight corruption has been for so long. The struggle to strengthen devolution has been for so long. You cannot say that that struggle must continue by hustling. You cannot say that that struggle must be continuing by a bottom-up economy. Right. In any case, the Strugglers movement believe in strengthening devolution. The only economic model that has been tested and it is working, but today at the county level, is called devolution or the devolved system. So what the strugglers want today is to strengthen that devolution beyond the county headquarters, so that when you go to the villages and the counties and the wards where majority of the strugglers are, you can start measuring development. You can see roads in the wards and villages. You can see hospitals in the wards and villages. You can see hospitals. You can see infrastructure. That is not what they are talking about. My good friend here, they are talking about a scrupulous way of hoodwinking Kenyans by cutting shortcuts without undergoing the difficulty that we have undergone since independence. Right. Strugglers are saying it is easier to fight for what you believe in, put genuine effort, and end the struggle. We must end the struggle. How are we going to end the struggle? We must get a real champion of the struggle who is a real deal, and that person will end that struggle. We have many of them. Unfortunately, our colleagues and friends and competitors who believe in cutting shortcuts and unscrupulous ways do not believe that the struggle should end. In fact, they are mobilizing the strugglers and the hustlers to go and sustain that hustle. We say no, the struggle must end, and that's why we call upon all young Kenyans, all people of Kenya, women, men, and children combined, must come on board so that we ensure that the struggle ends, and because the struggle is real.
Okay, Honorable Koske, what's your reaction to that? There seems to be similarities, but Mr. Okango says it's not similar. They are calling for an end to the struggle. On the other hand, the Deputy President has been accused of not being able to resonate with the hustlers, of the country, so-called hustlers of the country, because he himself may not, in some people's opinion, have gone through some of the hardships that they have, and therefore he cannot understand. What do you make of that?
Okay, first of all, from what he said, I think we are all similar, because what he's talking about, whether it is strugglers or whether it is hustlers, it's actually essentially the same thing. It's just playing around with semantics and playing around with words. What we are saying, ultimately, is that this election is going to be about those who want to make a difference on the economy for the people at the bottom, and those who do not believe in that and have other ideas, including a top-down model. Now, that is really it. Any democracy usually boils down to two simple choices.
Yes.
This one or that one. We know that the Deputy President has already made it clear that this is his agenda and that is where he stands. We are waiting to see who will be the other candidates. It's almost becoming apparent it's going to be Raila Odinga with his model. So those are the two choices that people are facing. And I would encourage my friend Fred over here, because if he really truly believes in what he is saying, that he would like to make a difference at the county level, he wants to make a difference for those people who are doing small and micro enterprises, SMEs, if that's what you would prefer to call them. If you want to make that kind of change in the economy, then you should join the group of the Deputy President, because on that is where the choice will be. Because next year, it is very difficult in a democracy to have a three-horse race. We have seen this in the past, when we have had other candidates and the third candidate. They rarely make a dent. An election will be essentially two choices. We will have the Deputy President on one hand, another candidate on the other hand, which will be probably Raila Odinga. Now, he has to make up his mind. Does he believe that the interests that he's just talking about are going to be best served by this side or the other side? I want to encourage him and assure him that the Deputy President and the Hustler Nation will be the one that will be most likely to achieve the aims that he has set out right now, that he has been talking about, which will change the economy and make an impact on the people that he's trying to argue for.
Absolutely. Now, joining us for this conversation is Elisha Odhiambo, who's the GEM Member of Parliament. I do believe you've heard the comments of Honorable Koske on the hustler movement, and of course, there is a new movement, apparently, the strugglers movement, that is being fronted by the Third Way Alliance. What do you make of all this talk of the economy, and perhaps how does Raila Odinga resonate with the voters when it comes to their economic needs, their struggles?
I think I've heard my friends with their views as regard to the next election and as regard to those who will impact on Kenyans. But my take is this. I think it's important to differentiate between marketers and doers. Okay. If you ask me, the Deputy President is a good marketer. Marketers only provide panaceas and prophylax. They don't provide solution. This country requires solution. And as you'd remember, in 2013, when the elections for this country were being conducted, the Deputy President told young Kenyans that we are going to give you all computers in all classes. 8 years later, 10 years later, do our students in schools have those computers? They don't have it. So Kenyans have a defining moment to differentiate between panaceas and people provide prophylax, like a Panadol, to people provide the ultimate solution. And the ultimate solution in this country requires the men and women with the definite plans and cognizant of the dilemma our country is in, cognizant of the fact that we have youth unemployment, cognizant of the fact that the economy is wobbling, and cognizant of the fact that this country has a lot of loans that we need to redeem. So we need somebody pragmatic, not somebody selling a philosophy, not somebody selling transcendental philosophy. We need somebody who will not talk about transcendental philosophy, we'll talk about solutions. We need somebody who will not talk about panaceas. We need somebody who will be pragmatic with things that will take Kenya to join the Asian tigers.
Now, Mr. Okango, you've heard what Honorable Odhiambo has said. How does the strugglers movement provide solutions for Kenyans of all walks of life who are just looking for better economic prospects?
Thank you, Trix. I agree with what Elisha says, because Elisha himself is a struggler. He has struggled to be where he is. I'm sure he believes that putting on genuine effort makes you what you are. Today he's a member of parliament of Game because he has struggled to secure the lives of members of his constituents in Game. And he believes that from the time of struggle for independence to this time for struggle for multi-party democracy to now the time for struggling for economic revolution, that can be done by somebody who does not market panacea, who does not market sloganeering, but somebody who does. There are champions, known champions of the struggle for multi-party democracy in this country, known champion for struggle for devolution in this country, and he knows them. And he can even tell us more about it better than some of us. But we believe that the strugglers movement has got underpinning philosophy of ensuring that we strengthen one area of devolution by ensuring that services reaches the majority of Kenyans at their doorsteps. And that is the real principle in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 6, that requires that service provision must be taken to every corner of this country. Why? Because these strugglers have been used before as mobilization tools. These strugglers have been undermined. These strugglers have been ignored. But this time round, they have found a voice. They have found a voice in participating in election, in participating in representation, in participating in changing the economy. I agree. The only area I think I agree with my friend Kosgei here is that this election shall be between those who believe in changing the economy and making the lives of strugglers better, and those who believe in trying to change the economic model so that they can have the hustlers vote for them. For us, we are in the team that believe that we must end the struggle for fighting against corruption. We must end the struggle of strengthening, of weakening devolution. We must end the struggle of inclusion of young people and women into the government and into participation of politics. We must end the struggle of having jobs to the people, because we must see into it that these strugglers, we support their businesses, or when they graduate from school, they get the jobs that they don't have. Today, they are being taken into a corner through a box, and they're being told that because you are a hustler movement, because you must carry the wheelbarrow after your graduation, you must vote for me so that I will give you some amount of money to help you buy more wheelbarrow and be a wheelbarrow pusher. That is not what we want. The strugglers are putting in genuine effort. The strugglers have identified their champions. Their champions are out there. It is not one. Unfortunately, the champion for hustler is one. For us, we have many champions out there who have demonstrated that the working economic model that has been tested, that everyone needs, is the model of strengthening devolution. And when Kosgei says that there's no difference between strugglers and hustlers, I really shrink on my chair, because the difference is as night and day. The difference is very simple. A struggler puts in genuine effort under difficulty. Kenya is a struggling nation. We have struggled to fight corruption. We have struggled to have women and youth into government. We have struggled to get jobs. That is strugglers. But when you talk of a hustler is somebody, by definition, who takes shortcut to circumvent the difficulties. We cannot circumvent the fight against corruption. We cannot circumvent the strengthening revolution.
Mr. Okangwa, let's get Honorable Kosgei. You've spoken about what he said for a while now. I'd like Honorable Kosgei to defend himself and the hustler movement, because he is a UDA legislator. I'd like also Honorable Kosgei to speak to the fact that the Deputy President is actually indeed part of the current government, and he did have a chance to deliver some of these things that he's talking about during the campaign train, and this has been one of the things that his opposers have used to attack him as they campaign for themselves. That why didn't he deliver while in government? Why did he stick it out to the end?
Okay, thank you, Trix. Firstly, regarding what my friend Fred said, I would like to ask him, and perhaps you could, which is, who would his candidate be then for president? Because he seems to be arguing for something without necessarily crystallizing it and saying this is what his proposal would be. And I would try to invite him to consider that if he truly believes in what he's saying, that he would like the economy to be the focus of the period of the next government, then he should try and actually think that if we have a binary choice, because we are going to have the deputy president on one side, and then we are going to have another candidate on the other side. And we have already been clear, and he agrees with me, that this election is about those who want to change the economy and those who do not. And the person who wants to change the economy is the deputy president. And the other candidate does not want to change the economy. So the important thing here is not to play games with definitions of words as per the dictionary and play games about that. It is to actually get to the heart of the matter. Who do you believe will actually make this change? Who will actually address this issue? And, you know, in anything in life, the first thing is diagnosing a problem properly. If you went to a hospital and a doctor gave you the correct diagnosis, you are more likely to trust that doctor to treat you than a doctor who gives you the wrong diagnosis. The only person who diagnosed the Kenya's problem clearly from the beginning is the deputy president, who actually talked about the need to change the economy and the need to try and ensure that the people from the bottom up have a real difference in their lives and feel the impact of a new and a better administration as we move forward. Now, on the other hand, the other group, they never diagnosed the problem correctly. They started off by saying that the problem is positions, the problem is about the constitution, the problem is about other things. And right now they are playing catch-up. So you would not trust somebody who cannot diagnose the problem correctly to fix the problem that they don't even seem to understand properly. The only person who understands the problem, who will be able to address the problem and solve it, is the deputy president. And I believe and I hope that Kenyans will actually be able to see this as we reach the election, and they will be able to make the right choice.
Honorable Odhiambo, do you believe the only person to understand Kenyans' plight when it comes to the economy and their needs is DP, or what do you, how does Raila Odinga come in terms of understanding the people and, of course, wanting to deliver for them?
I think it's important to say what I mentioned as a start. I said that the deputy president is a marketer. For any marketing person, if you're marketing a product, you can market, put flowers on it. At the end of the day, the receiver of the product is a Kenyan. The Kenyan realizes that this marketer delivered a product that is just a panacea, not a solution. And if you reflect back on the history of this country, Raila Odinga, this gentleman was jailed. Why? Because he was trying to create space for all of us. He was trying to ensure that this country, people can talk as they are talking carelessly without being arrested. People can talk in bars. During the Moi era, you could not even talk in bar because the CIDs and NSIs were on you. Why? A few Kenyans like Raila, a few Kenyans like Paul Mwite, a few Kenyans like Ivuda Kibwana, like James Bob Aglorengo, struggled, and now we have space to talk. If you reflect on when Raila was a prime minister, when Raila and Kibaki were working together, the economy grew. All Kenyans had some money. There's food on the table. What has happened the last 10 years? Kenyans are struggling. Kenyans are struggling because we gave the president a deputy who was a mere marketer. You can see the last 5 years when the president has had the cooperation of his handshake brother. What has happened? There's a huge infrastructure development. If anybody who went out of Kenya last 5 years, if you come back to Nairobi, you'll be surprised. If the deputy president was not a marketer, as a young man who has traveled all over the world, I would have expected this gentleman to tell the president, let us do a Trump from the airport to Nairobi. It's the simplest way. And I mean, that's the way the world is going. Is a young man failed to provide solution to his boss. And more importantly, this country needs humility. This country needs respect. You cannot be a president if you don't respect your president. You must respect your boss. I pray that he finds in his heart humility and respects the current president if he wants to be one in the future.
Okay. Now, I'd like to, speaking of the future, I'd like to circle back to something that Honorable Koskei said. Mr. Okango, you seem to be pushing for this movement, but you're failing to mention one very key issue. Who, and of course, or perhaps where will you be standing in the upcoming 2022 general election? What's the plan here?
Movements are not for individuals. The reason why the English word calls it a movement, it's a group of people who have identified a cause and they're championing.
But where
and
does this one stand?
If you allow me, and they're inviting Kenyans to the movement. Today, the reason why the so-called hustlers are unsettled, because they thought that they own the space of trying to get and steer the perspective of the lowly placed individuals. No, that is not, you don't have the monopoly of the space. All Kenyans, in fact, majority of Kenyans are at that level where they need to be strengthened so that they can be somebody in life. And we are saying that the surest way, the champions of these struggles have known. And I referred you to a gentleman sitting next to you, Elisha. He knows, he has mentioned one of the strugglers for these causes. And he has said it clearly. Because this race requires believability. We have seen people who you cannot believe. This race requires somebody who is sincere. We have seen people who are not sincere, they are insincere. And that's why the strugglers movement, at the right time, shall identify the struggler who is sincere, the champion of the strugglers who is believable, the champion of the struggler who has demonstrated all his life or her life, all their lives, that they have the heart of Kenyans, and not only Kenyans, majority of Kenyans, if not all Kenyans, to secure their lives. We are saying the person who has come up as a hustler is not that person. And we are saying the rest that are out there, and they have demonstrated that they are that person, we shall for sure support those people, because our interest is to end the struggle, is not to start the struggle. The hustler narrative is starting the struggle by bringing a class war, by cutting shortcuts, by ensuring that you avoid difficulties like corruption, by ensuring that you don't strengthen devolution. When we went for constitutional amendment, you saw the biggest team that challenged the constitutional amendment that was going to strengthen devolution, that was going to fight corruption, a constitutional amendment that was going to ensure that youth, young people like me and Alex, are in parliament. They challenged it. You saw a group of people that challenged the inclusion of women, which is a constitutional requirement in leadership. They challenged. Those are people who are calling themselves chief hustlers. We cannot trust such people. We can only trust the strugglers who have championed the strengthening of devolution, who have championed the fight against corruption, who have championed the fight against joblessness. And that's why I'm saying, at the right time. And Kenyans have eyes, they are seeing. The struggler is not the hustler. The struggler is a champion of a cause who puts in genuine effort. He is not a hustler.
Okay. Let's move on to, and just jumping off of a topic, a point that you have made, that of corruption. Honorable Koskei, how would the hustler movement champion corruption? Because whatever gains are made economically, at the end of the day, if corruption is still one of Kenya's biggest problem, at the end of the day, it will still be making no headway, because they will be eroded, the gains will be eroded by corruption. Very little is being said about corruption nowadays. It's all about the economy, but there's no good economy with corruption.
Yes, I mean, from next year, one of the things that we hope is that the government, the hustler government, will try and improve on issues of corruption and try and ensure that wastage as well is dealt with. Because the economy can only grow when we make sure that the resources that are created and generated are reinvested properly and are not lost through either corruption or wastage, which is actually the case at the moment. And it's something which is unfortunate and something which has to be addressed with. And I think, again, as I said, from when we look, as we frame this discussion, whether it be those who are on the Hustler Nation side or those who are on the other side, the only people who actually have the pulse of the nation, really want to make a difference on the ground, are those of us who are in the Hustler movement. Let me say something else about the Raila Odinga, which was what my colleague Elisha Odhiambo was talking about. I think one of the things, as much as we all respect Raila, this is somebody who has been fighting for the presidency for over 20 years. And there's definitely a level of Raila fatigue. Because I think a lot of people have said that as much as we respect him, I think it is time for him to retire, along with even the president, as the president retires next year. I think it is fair for us to tell him that we do respect the contribution that he has made, but I think it's time for him to retire and allow those with the ideas of trying to change the economy, such as the deputy president, to have that opportunity to make a difference in this country as we move forward.
Honorable Odhiambo, is the country experiencing Raila fatigue?
That it is wrong to say that. I can tell you that I stood for elections many times. It's the third time that I made it. Raila stood for elections just like me. And I'm optimistic. The country is ripe with optimism. Why? Azimio la umoja. Inawezekana. You saw when Raila was in Embu, what did he do? He united Kivuti and the governor. When he was in Meru, what did he do? He brought Munya back together with Kiraitu. When he was in Kiambu, what did he do? The governor and the former governor were brought together. This is the Kenya we are looking for. We are optimistic that Raila will unite this country. It is possible. We are seeing greater possibilities. What I'm not seeing from where I sit, Honorable Kosgei, I mean, gentlemen, your father was a minister many years ago. You have grown up in a nice, beautiful family. You have been having sausages. My father was a mere clerk in the Ministry of Energy, in the Ministry of Education. We struggled, we suffered. You know, you can't be talking about hustlers. If you go to Ruto's Bay in Wilson Airport, there are 5 helicopters. Gentlemen, don't cheat Kenyans. Be a bit serious with your life. I mean, if you are really a hustler, in the first time when you are a member of parliament, Kosgei, you never have been accused that you are absent. You are an absentee MP. This time you have tried. But the last time you are an absentee, you should have been edifying, articulating the problems that the young men in this country are facing. I stand to say, Azimilio la umoja inawezekana. The Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, Raila Amolo Odinga, when he was a Minister for Roads, he demonstrated that he had some skill. You know, he was creating bypasses. There was demonstration all over the country. That why you bringing houses down? Why? He was pragmatic because he knew in the future this is what the country needed. And he did it very well. I am certain, I'm sure, as we are climbing the mountain, as we are moving all over the country, Kenyans will differentiate between those who have enjoyed the resources of this country at the detriment of other Kenyans. There are many poor Kenyans. If William was serious, his land in Voi, he could have divided to those guys, the peasants. Gentlemen, don't lie to Kenyans. Kenyans are not stupid. They are serious people. They are working hard to make sure the family of Wafula in Kibra is working hard, working to industrial area to work, to ensure that they can eat a meal. They're sleeping in one bed. They're sharing a bed for 6 people in Kibra. Their families in Landmawe or Wanjiku, sleeping in one bed with no food. But they are hopeful that tomorrow, Daddy will go and get a job in industrial area and come back and give us food. Gentlemen, don't lie.
Kosgei, I'd like you to reply to those sentiments that have been made by Honorable Odhiambo about your leadership and your person.
Well, okay, it's unfortunate that Honorable Elisha, he's my friend, but it's unfortunate he has actually gone into a lot of personal attacks. First of all, regarding the accusation about being absentee and the rest that happened then, that was not even true. A committee looked at it and found that not to be the case. Secondly, I did a lot of work in my constituency. In fact, that's the reason why I was re-elected handsomely in 2017. And thirdly, in terms of things that I've done in Parliament, one of the major things that I've done is try and have a bill to address the issue of the debt and the debt ceiling. In fact, part of the reason why we created the debt ceiling in 2019 is part of the work that I'd been doing on trying to deal with the debt issue. So I've done many things during my time in Parliament, and it's unfortunate that Elisha would want to descend into personal attacks. I don't think that is necessary at the moment. The thing to do is to look forward, and as I talk about the hustler nation, this is another misconception people have. They try and make it look like if you're from a particular class or a particular position, you therefore have no understanding or a way of even should have no talk about trying to improve the livelihoods of people in the economy. That is not true. We are not saying that that the issue of changing the economy is about a particular class or about a particular region or about a particular person. The issue of the economy cuts across everybody. Everybody would want to live in a country where the economy is booming, where people, if they invest money, will get a good return, where people, if they wish to make progress in their life, they have that opportunity to do so. And that is what the Hustler Nation is about. And ultimately, we do not want to create and sustain a situation of poverty. We would like a lot of people across the board to be able to make progress in their lives and have an economic gain, so that eventually we can become a prosperous nation, all of us. So the issue of Elisha trying to make it look like it's a particular group or a particular section who are entitled to talk about the economy, that is not actually fair. We want to see prosperity across the board, and that will only happen if we can address the economy, which is what the Hustler Nation is trying to do, and which is what the Deputy President has been talking about. And he has been saying very clearly that we are not about one region, one area, or one people. What we are trying to do is to get everybody together so that we can make a difference in their lives and in the economy and grow the economy.
I think if Honorable Kosgei believes in a hustler, I want to ask hustlers, if they don't have breakfast in the morning in Kibra, they should go to Kosgei and Ruto's home and have breakfast. I mean, this is what it means. If you really believe in talk about hustler, because you are creating a problem for this country with the hustler narrative. You are creating a class war. And if you believe in it, I want to ask the hustlers to come to your home or Ruto's home to have breakfast.
No.
The one who sleep hungry.
No, that's not true at all. I think you're not understanding this, because the question...
It's only the strugglers who can break this tie. Because the two gentlemen have talked for so long, and I think it is important that the struggler comes in. Okay. And this is what we are saying. I agree with the Honorable Elisha, and that's why we have been trying to debunk this issue. You know, when you say that it is time for hustlers, and then you don't really define who are hustlers. You struggle with how you can bring those hustlers. Everyone in this country is a struggler, because we are a struggling nation. We are a developing economy, and that puts us as a struggling country. And therefore, it is only a struggler and the champions of the struggle. Elisha has said himself, he struggled to get into parliament because of the work that he was doing for his people 3 times. The 3rd one he managed. Today he's still struggling to make their lives better. And I know he'll struggle more even to deliver them from that aspect of, of not having the best of whatever they would want him to do. My friend here, Kosgei, has said that the struggle, the hustlers nation are working hard day and night to ensure that we have a better economy. But they have no framework of sustaining that economy. They are saying yesterday, I heard their chief guy say that they will put over 50 billion to ensure that the young people get 4 million jobs. The same person who promised us young people, when they get into government with Uhuru Kenyatta, that they'll give us 1 million jobs. We have not seen it. And that is somebody that is not believable. And therefore, that's why I'm saying the hustlers are taking a shortcut through unscrupulous means by circumventing the difficulty. The difficulty is tricks, and if you allow me, you must work hard through genuine effort to arrive where you are, as Elisha has said. When Elisha says that when these things were happening, he was taking sausage and tea, I don't know about that, but I want to believe that what is important today is we must acknowledge and be cognizant of the struggles that we have undergone as a country, as leaders, as Kenyans. Then we must end that struggle by voting for a champion of the struggle who actually deserves, not a hijacker of the struggle who has baptized the struggle into hustler and now mobilizing the strugglers into voting machines so that it can be a chief struggler. We say no. We say it is time for the champions of the struggle. It's the time for the chief struggler. It is time for the real deal in the champion of the struggle. And that's why I agree with Elisha. You know, in this country, we are used to sloganeering. We are used to sloganeering and we forget where we have come from. Where we have come from is far, far, far much. We have come from a place where we were promised stadia and it never happened. We've come from a place where we were promised jobs and it never happened. We come from a place where we were promised free education and it never happened. And if there's anyone who must go home with President Kenyatta because they were elected on one ticket, even though the president has looked for partners in the last term to help us have the infrastructural development that we are seeing today, that person that must go home with President Uhuru Kenyatta is William Ruto. Why? Because he had the opportunity to demonstrate that what he's doing,
we need to go
he
on
can do, but he has not.
But I'll allow you both and also Honorable Koskei to have a right of reply on the other side. But before we take that break, a military coup appears to be underway in Khartoum, Sudan. This is the breaking news that we received earlier on. We're going to give you more details as they transpire. We are told that this comes hot on the heels of another attempt that was made late in September. According to